Just to give you a bit of a background, what I'm prepared to show you today, it's a really scaled back version of our flagship product that is just known as MobileAssessor. It's fully integrated with 26 or so different CAMA systems across the continent, and that allows for all the data synchronization to take place from the office to mobile, from mobile back to the office, and there's no sort of secondhand data entry at all. But aside from that, sometimes people don't need the full integrated version, or it takes more time to get the funding for the full integration. So we created this MobileAssessor Lite product, and it's just really lightweight. It has a lot of the same features and functionality as the full product. One of the main differences, though, is in two areas. One is the data synchronization, so we're not going to be pushing the data automatically back into your CAMA system. And the second item just really comes down to support. And so with you guys, you would be able to determine what data you want to get loaded. You could drop that data, reload new data whenever you'd like. So it kind of puts you in control of that aspect on the support side. We wouldn't really be doing that. And it's just as simple as through an Excel file. But the full version, that's all synchronizing automatically, so we don't even have that thing to worry about. One thing we can do is we can have a neighborhood or market area profile calculate for you up top. This can be median, mode, interquartile range, averages of sale prices, dollar per square foot, things like that if you'd like to see it. Otherwise, you can just hide that, and that calculation does not have to take place. That's going to take place in real time based upon the data on the device. So if you are updating data, you could see that update for you. This first screen here is the route screen, or the sort screen. Here, it's going to route all the parcels that you assign that person to visit. It's going to route them just like FedEx or UPS, so you know what route to take to go visit them. This is a bad example here. You have multiple layers of priority you can set. So in this one, they're all flagged as urgent, just basically telling the person, hey, these are all the same priority, go get them done. But you could set an additional level, and the higher priority is going to route first, and then the lower priority will route second. So think of that like FedEx or UPS. Again, if someone pays for overnight express shipping, you don't care if that thing's a 20-minute drive away. You're going to go pick up that property now. You're going to deliver that package now, even if you've got some people that paid for ground shipping right next door. If you still have 5 days to get that done, don't worry about it. Don't go to it. So it will route it for you like that. Most people will end up setting their new construction permits as urgent, and then their reappraisal is a lower priority. That way you can get the new construction on the books first, or maybe a homeowner wants to visit you at a certain time, and then your reappraisal will get sorted after that. There's also a map view of that. Well, I guess I did have some lower priorities, but there were, so these orange ones in this map view, those are lower priority than the red. So those orange ones would pop up on my screen once I was done with all of the urgent ones. But there's a map view. So in this map view, you can see all the properties that you're set to go visit. Now, if I were actually closer to this area, you would see this little blue beacon here showing your current location. So my little beacon there, it would be driving around as you're in the field. And then when you see that beacon next to the property that you want to work on, you can tap on it. You can say open parcel, and it will take you into the property menu where you can start interacting with the data. Now, it's just one access point. There's multiple ways to taking pictures, to getting to the data. We built it that way by design. You know, every appraiser doesn't work the same way. Every subject site visit's not the same workflow. So you could take a picture by just tapping on the thumbnail here. You could take it from other screens. The same thing with opening the property. I can just swipe on one of these properties, and it's going to open up that same menu. Okay, so we're not trying to shoehorn a certain workflow on everybody. You guys can decide what workflow you want to use on how you're going to open that screen. Before I get into showing that, though, I want to tap on these properties one time. And these screens are all configurable. You can decide what data you want to see here. And this is just a sandbox environment, so it's not the prettiest thing. But most people like to see the year built, the last sales information, grade, condition, quality, maybe last year's value. And so what you can do is you can very quickly just go through and verify all those core data components. And if you see no issues or concerns, you might just mark it as complete right here on the screen. Mark it as complete. It's going to remove. Mark the next one as complete. It's going to remove. Mark the next one as complete. And then it's just going to keep on routing more and more work for you. If you do end up in a case, though, where you see that the dollar per square foot or maybe the condition's incorrect, go ahead and swipe on that property. And now you can go in and make an edit or take notes if you need to. Before I get to that, I'm going to show you the first option here is the property record card. This is just, again, just a mock-up, but you guys can design this to however you'd like. So you might just decide to make this look like your regular PRC or, you know, something more simplified. But this is interactive. You can review all your data on here, click on an area of that card, and it's going to take you to the screen where that data lives. So now I could come in here and make any edits that I'd like. So maybe the use code was incorrect on this one. Maybe it's not really an agricultural home site. Maybe it's, let's pick something else in here. Let's say it's a retail condo. I could just go in here and change that. And these drop-down menus, these can be custom. You guys can decide what you want them to be, or it's going to be the same drop-down menus from your system or the same list of options. It's going to keep track of what the original data value was, so you know if you need to change it back. So here you can see it said the land use was an ag home site. You've changed it to retail condo. All right, let me click back for a second. So I could just click on the property record card, go in and out of the data like that, or the next option, here the data collection card, that's actually where all your screens are going to be, those screens back here that you created. Owner information, you know, you can create all these screens that you want just by clicking in here, typing in create, you know, a new category. It's going to create a new screen for you. And so this little pop-out menu is going to be all the screens that you created. In this particular county, they had this thing that was called Key Data Checklist, and this was what they thought was important for their quick review project. You know, they would go in and fill out the property type. Are there any data quality flags? So, you know, they're just trying to get in and out of the field as quickly as possible, and then they would follow up with something back at the office through the QC module. I've not talked to you guys about that yet, but this application is two parts. The first part's this MobileAssessor piece that I'm showing you. The second part lives back in the office. You're able to do quality control of the data. You're able to see current and past location of the field staff, run productivity reports, manage all the workflow and stuff like that as well. So in this case, they wanted to be able to flag multiple things at once that they would follow up with later. So maybe they'd flag this as under construction. Maybe they would say unrecorded structure, you know, abandoned something. So you can just pick multiple flags, and those are all going to get recorded for you and made available to various reports, and you can export those to Excel or whatever's needed back at the office. You could type in any notes that you'd like. You could use voice to text as well. New garage being built. Check for building permit, period. And then you can just go in and, you know, fill out other information as needed. Now you can open up the screen menu again, go in and review your other information. Okay, at that point it's basically just rinse and repeat. Now, if I go back and look at the property record card, any of this was all blank on this property, but as you can see, now that I've filled the data in, or if I would make edits, it's going to show up in red. So a lot of the existing data here would show up as in black, and then anything you modify is going to show in red. Most appraisers want to come back here, review all the data one last time, and then they can mark it as complete from this window too. So I showed you mark as complete on the sort screen. It's also here on the PRC. It also shows up in 4 or 5 other places within the application. It just really depends on where you want to finish working on that property. So those details are important. You know, every time you can save a click or a tap or a swipe, you know, we're not making you go back 5 screens to mark something as complete. It appears there, it appears here, it appears in the map view, a bunch of different places. So once you're done with it, just mark it as complete. And I'm just going to do that. It's going to run through some data validation to make sure that all of the required data is filled in. You guys determine what fields you want to be required, whether a minimum or maximum value has been violated, things like that. So this one has no issues on it, and it's just letting me know that, hey, are you really okay? If so, it's going to get removed from your list. I said okay. It pops me back to this routed screen. It's no longer on my list here, and I can continue working. If I would go into the map view, I would see this blue icon down here now. The blue one's the one that I completed. So if you did need to open that up at some point, you could go to your map view, open up that blue icon, and go and make some edits again as needed. So maybe on this one, I forgot to take a picture. I'll say open parcel, and I want to come in here and take an additional photo. So I'll say take photo. Now, as you'll see at the bottom, it automatically adds the date and timestamp, and it automatically adds the parcel identifier, so the parcel ID, as a watermark. You can crop the image if needed by clicking on the crop button. So maybe you wanted to crop somebody out of it or a vehicle. You can also blur. So if there's someone's face, contents of a garage, a license plate, you just click the blur button. And then now, as you start scratching on the screen, you're going to blur it out. So you'll notice at the bottom where it says datacloudsolutions.net, I'm just rubbing my finger there and blurring that out. So once you're good with the image, you say accept, and that's good to go. It's automatically associated with that parcel. It's going to be sent back to the QC module, and then you're able to, it's automatically renamed and available to you in your office as well. If you had sketches, you would be able to view them here. I don't have any sketches loaded into this environment. You've got your photos. So again, just multiple ways of getting access to the photos, property record card, the sort screen through here. Google Maps and directions. So this is going to give you turn-by-turn instructions on how to get to your property. So some people prefer to read on how to get there. In this case, if I wasn't 600 miles away, I wouldn't have all these things to listen to here. You can imagine if you're working in your own county, you're just going to have a few directions to read. We're also integrated with various third-party GPS providers, so Garmin, Navigon, Siject, Waze. If I click on this, it's going to yell at me. They no longer allow me to project this, but I'll just click on it. You might see 2 seconds before it yells at me. Nope, it yelled at me. For some reason, they don't like free advertisement, but as you can see, it's running in the background, and it would just give you those visual instructions on how to get to your property. And then we have this GIS interactive map here. If you guys do have pictometry, Sanborn, Near Map, we'd be able to display that information here. But also, this is different than the other map view. Unlike the other map view, it showed you all the properties you were assigned to work on. This one's only going to highlight your subject. Just to help you positively identify where you are. Maybe you had questions as to if a building was on one parcel versus another. This would help you. Another cool thing the system's able to do is, this is the work here that I'm assigned, but we're also able to make available nearby properties that appraiser has not specifically been assigned. So if I click this Show All button, you'll see the green icon show up. So what it's done is it's made properties near the ones that I'm working on available. So if I happen to look across the street here and see something going on, I could go ahead and open that property, flag it for a check back, pick up a new garage, whatever the case might be. And there are various other flags available that you guys can set. These are all configurable. You control that. So you could just flag this, and it's going to make it available to various different workflow options back at the office. Okay. There's about 15 different routing options. You don't have to use our automated stuff. You don't have to use Google. You don't have to use the third-party tools that we integrate with. We've got a bunch of stuff available. Again, every project's not the same. If you have your own routing order, we can make that available here as well. Probably the coolest things, though, some of the coolest routing features we have are the geolocation, closest first and closest last. So if you know that you're leaving the office and you're going to work out further into the county, and you're going to end your day in the county and you just want to go home from there, you would probably say sort the closest ones to where you are right now. You want to say sort those first. What that's going to do is have you work out into the county, and then at the end of the day you just go home. If you know you have to come back to the office, you would say sort the closest ones last. What that's going to do is going to send you out further into the county, and then you'd work yourself backwards. That's also very handy for after lunch, or if you have to use a couple hours of PTO, go to a doctor's visit or something. Instead of backtracking to where you used to be working before you took lunch or took a few hours off, when you're ready to get back to work, sort on your new location. It's going to reroute all these properties for you, and hopefully that saves you 10, 15, 20 minutes of backtracking. So you can't really do that when you're collating all that paper. And I'll tell you what else I like it for. When school lets out, if you're stuck behind a school bus or a garbage truck, or you don't want to deal with kids being in the photos, or maybe there's a traffic accident and the road closed. Don't deal with that mess. Drive to a different area, a different neighborhood, sort on your new location, and let it reroute all that work for you so you're not fighting the traffic or fighting kids getting off the bus, etc. There are some other advanced options here. I'm not going to bore you guys with all of these, but there's so many different ways of routing the properties, whether you're going door to door, whether it's sporadic throughout the county. One of my favorite ones here is the search by street. So in this case, you're able to pick the road that you want to work on, and then you can control, do I want to go down the left side of the road, the right side of the road. So here you can say odd numbers, even numbers. So now you can just basically route yourself if you're going door to door. There's this appraiser dashboard here. This keeps track of all the properties that you're assigned, how many you've completed, and how many are left remaining. So if you guys currently have to keep track of your productivity, you don't have to do that anymore. This application is going to keep track of it for you. This is just very high level. Back in the office, those reports are very detailed. Who, what, when, where, how long. It's very detailed. I always hated keeping track of my productivity when I was in the field. I understand why management needed to know it, but it was me not really doing my real job. My real job is not keeping track of productivity. It was, making a value call, making a greater condition call, taking pictures. And then when I started managing a bunch of appraisers, again, my real job wasn't to make sure that they were getting quota done. My real job was probably outlier review, sales verification, models calibration, sales ratio studies. It was just all those necessary evils, though. So back at the office, there's some reporting that takes care of all that for us. All right, I want to show you this boring screen here. It's very powerful, even though it's boring. Anytime we fix a bug, release a new feature, if you guys rearrange your screens, add new fields, remove fields, if there's ever an update, these devices have no technical reason to ever have to go back to the office. There's no technical reason for them ever to have to go back to an IT department. There's no technical reason for them to ever leave the appraiser's hand. Every update is received over the internet, typically in under 30 seconds. Worst case scenario, it could take 5 to 8 minutes. That's if you changed everything and we're on a 3G connection. So it's going to be quicker than that if you're on 4G, LTE, or Wi-Fi. You would just come in here and say update application. You get all of the edits. It also allows for you to come in here and pick different neighborhoods that you'd want to work in. In my sandbox here, I'm only assigned this one. This could be a list of 50 different neighborhoods or map numbers, whatever you guys want to do. And then you could decide which ones you're going to go in and out of to work. Now, let me show you a little bit of the quality control module. This lives back at your office, and you can filter in on the data any which way imaginable. You can click Add Filter. This is going to be your data that you loaded, as well as some various fields that we make available. At the very least, you're going to say, show me the pending changes marked as complete. I click Add Filter. There's only one here. Yeah, let me try to find something better. Let's say I want to look by neighborhood. What was that neighborhood I was working in? 6889. All right. So now there's 1,860 parcels in this neighborhood. If I wanted to start doing like a desk review of that here, I could. But you can add other filters. You can say, and it was field reviewed by this person, or the dollar value was more than this, or it was marked as complete on this date. So you can just keep filtering in on it however you would like until you can find exactly what you're looking for. Now, I'm going to try to find that one I was working on. Trying to keep a bunch in here so it's easier for you guys to visualize this. All right. So once you filter on the data you want to do quality control on, you click on that record, and here there's going to be a list of recent changes letting you know as the supervisor what's changed. Any screen that contains an edit will be highlighted in red. So you can see that I modified all these fields. I also modified something here on the land information. And then when you click on the red icon, it lets you know what it used to be. So you remember that one I changed from ag home site to retail condo? It's letting you know that. And it's going to keep track of every last iteration of data that took place. The moment your finger lifts off the screen, we're going to record it. So that can be a great training opportunity for someone. If you have some new hires, you know, you might see someone that changed condition from average to fair to good, back to average. It didn't really change. Started at average, it ended at average, but you'd be able to see that they kept changing it here for some reason. You could, hey, are you struggling with that? What's going on? So anyway, if you're doing the QC, you could click on this and say, what the heck, this is not a retail condo. And you could click on ag home site, remand it back to what it used to be. Or you don't agree with either of them. Just come in here and pick something entirely different. Okay. You have access to the digital property record card here too. So all of the information that you want displayed on the PRC, you can. It's also interactive. So when you click on that area of the card, it takes you to the screen where that data lives. You could do, you know, sketching in here too if you had that. You have a GIS map view. So you might be going through reviewing all the data. If somebody, you know, so you can kind of compare it there. You can go into the Google Street View if you'd like as well. You have an audit trail. So this audit trail is going to keep track of all of every last iteration of change to take place within our system. And then you can export these to Excel as well. The photos that they took. So here's this photo. Here's that one I blurred out. You can also assign different metadata to these. So if you wanted to like fill in, you can do this from mobile too. You can do XY coordinates. You can fill in, hey, this is the left side, the right side, that's an outbuilding, whatever the case is, you can fill in that information. And then there's that assignment group profile, that market area profile. Anyway, you go through and you review all this data. If it looks good, you click this approve button, and it's going to change all these red check marks to green, or these red things to a green check mark. Now, if you were on our full system, this now gets synchronized into your CAMA system. But if you're not, what this does is it's now going to make it available to the reports for you to export and do data entry, or maybe you guys are doing dual monitors and you might just be doing this data entry from here. But you can have different rules in place by building these filters over here. So you might have one supervisor that goes through and reviews all this and clicks approve, and then You could have some data entry clerks or the appraisers on rainy days, whatever your guys' workflow is. You could have them only looking at stuff that's already been approved. So you can control who sees what. If you click soft reject, what that's going to do, it's going to keep all the edits intact and send it back to the appraiser. And you can give them a little message saying, you forgot you can just give them a message if you want them to do something. And that's going to show up in bright red letters on various parts of that parcel when they get it back. You can also have it be configured to get sent to them via text message and email as soon as you do that. All right, so if you click this reject button up here, it's going to undo all the changes they made, and it's going to set all these records back to what they were originally. So if someone just made a bunch of mistakes, you feel like it's easier to start over, just click reject. It's going to undo everything. So once you're good with that, you just click next parcel, and it's rinse and repeat at that point. Okay. Now you don't have to do this for every single one. There are some random sampling options you can do. So here I can change this to say I'm just going to review 20% of John Smith's work. So it's search parcels. It's going to randomly go and find them. You can go through and review those. If everything looks good, change that back up to 100. And now anything you've not yet approved, you can click this bulk edit tool up here and set everything to approved. And now all of that work's going to get marked as okay and be made available to the data entry process. Say somebody went rogue and just started trying to mess stuff up. You could just filter on their name, reject everything, and just assign it to somebody else. You can export all this to Excel if needed. So I just click that export to CSV button, and it's going to dump it into Excel. So it's very easy to work with the data. You can just determine what you want to see up here by clicking this gear icon, and here's your different data fields. And you can just click the arrow and add them to the screen. There's an info button up here because now is the point where most people get a little overwhelmed and said, oh my God, it's great, but how am I going to remember it all? Well, we have great documentation and videos, but click this info button up here. Anything you hover over in our system, it's going to tell you exactly what it does. This has been a lifesaver. It's reduced our support. Customers love it. Okay, let me show you an example of a template. Like I said, you could have a supervisor reviewing this stuff and then a data entry clerk that does the actual data entry. You could say, show me anything with QC status equal to approved. That's 61,992 parcels in this example. Okay, well, we don't want one person doing all that, so we might add another filter. Show me anything that was field reviewed after, I'm just going to pick something here, some date, and there's just one. Anyway, you go through, you build those filters. You can say save query, entry needed, now, a few days later, a week later, whatever the case is, you can just log in, go to My Templates, click on this. It will automatically build that and run it for you. So one of the things here, this appraisal task control, is pretty ugly when I was in the sandbox, but you can see this is a live customer now, and these things are all updating. And so here's the last 7 days of productivity. It's very high level. So if you know you have 2,000 building permits or 10,000 parcels for reappraisal, you can just kind of keep high-level tabs on it. And here you can see they did 42, 43, 45. You can see how much work each person's assigned and how much they have left remaining. And if you see that, let's see, Eddie's running out of work. He's like 98.2% complete. You'd want to know to go over here and assign Eddie some more work. So he doesn't have to come back in the office and say, hey, I'm out of work. You can send messages to people. You can add one person here, multiple people. You can say, And when you click send, I better remember this is a real environment. Based upon how you have that configured, it's going to go out via iMessaging, text messaging, emails. So that's pretty cool. Caution list, I didn't talk to you guys about this. You can load a subset of parcels to a caution list. What that's going to do is put a bright red border around the sorted screen. It's going to put a yellow caution label within the map view and various other screens on MobileAssessor. You can just have it be a generic word that says caution, and then people know to go read the notes, or you can put things on there like beware of dog. If you have some code word for dangerous property owner, no trespassing, things like that. Okay, let me show you the field tracking module. So here, in this particular county, there's 4 people working in the field. I can click and see where Eddie's last known location was, Josh, Kyle, Michael, and I can reset my view and kind of see where everybody's spread. So if you do have somebody that calls in and says, hey, do you have somebody in my area? You can quickly confirm, yes, that's Josh. No, I don't have anyone in the area. You know, call the police. There's also a historic view here. So you're able to search based upon a person, a date and time range. So I used to sit on the Board of Revision, BOE, not sure what you guys call it. We call it Board of Revision in Ohio. I'm sure you guys have heard it. You've never been to my property. You're just trying to raise my taxes. You're punishing me because I'm successful. You know, so I created this little thing here just to kind of show who, what, when, where, how long. It also has helped save people's lives. I had one person that went into anaphylactic shock. She was in this mountain resort village. There's about 7,000 parcels in this crazy area with just one way in, one way out. And she knew that if she called 911, they weren't going to get to her in time. She actually called back to the office, said she was having trouble breathing, provide my coordinates, and then 911 was able to get out there and save her. But anyway, so you got that. This is optional. If you don't want it, click a button, turn it off. It's going to save you exactly $0. It's a free module. Use it if you want. Just to let you know, it only tracks if you're using the application. So once you stop working, it stops tracking. If you minimize the screen, if you log out, you know, it's only going to track it if you're using it. We have had concerns with people before saying, well, it doesn't matter where I go to lunch and things like that. Yeah, well, just as long as you're not working, it's not tracking. It's not our iPad. We would never track it. It is your guys' hardware. So if you ever need to track your hardware, there are applications for that. You can use Find My iPhone. You can use AirWatch and things like that. So just so you know, it's not tracking the iPad. It's tracking the use of the application. But you can track the iPad through other means if you need to. Okay, there's a bunch of reports. I'm not going to bore you guys with all these. Very detailed. What properties have edits, audit trails, who did what, assignment group stats. That's just neighborhood stats. You know, yada, 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 yada. Field alerts and messages. I want to show you this one, though, the productivity statistics. You can pick an individual person or leave it blank, and it's going to go and query everybody. I'm going to go back to where I know this county was doing new construction back when they first got trained. And just kind of run this report for you. So it's going to pull me back, everybody. Since I didn't pick a user, it's going to show me how many they completed per day, per hour, average per hour, and grand totals. So here I can see that Brent did 3 on this day, 16, 8, how many per hour, his average per hour. Now this was them doing new construction, and this is in a fully synchronized integration. But all these things are available no matter if you're on the light version or not. So you can kind of go through, you can see the grand totals. Just in these couple of days, these few people did 266. Their aggregate was 3.9 per hour. Again, that's new construction. And then you can export these to Excel, PDF, Word. And do whatever else you might want to do with them.